5. Let's kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy. Let's talk transactions.
Transaction Tracker.
So listen, big week in transactions, even though it's a pretty dead waiver week. The big headliner, Toon Squad, coming out firing. Won the two biggest prizes of the week, if you can call them that.
Mhm.
Dearness Johnson and Justin Jackson. $36 for each player. That's $72. We only get 100.
Yep.
Feels like a lot for two backups. JB, what do you think? I mean, you're scrounging out there. Were these guys on your radar?
They actually weren't on my radar. Now I think that maybe they should be, but like you said, for two backups, I think this is when you start panicking, saying I have to spend the money because I don't want to be sitting there at the end of the year with too much in waiver budget. You want to get those picks in, so I think he was just doing it to make sure he got his guys, and he did. So I can't hate on that.
Yeah, you can't take it with you. So saving it to the end, dangerous game.
Right.
One other thing I noticed, Kipper picked up Carson Wentz but dropped Corey Davis. Corey Davis has been pretty good this year. I mean, he doesn't have a game in the single digits. Another example where Kipper, just not knowing the rules of the league, could have easily used his IR slot and kept him on the team. And I guarantee he's going to have some suitors when he clears next week. So a bit of a mental mistake out of the Buffaloes that, frankly, we're used to seeing at this point.
For sure. And I'm going to be one of those suitors next week. I don't want to give away my cards too much. But this is, again, why it's probably good to hold on to some waiver value, because I went all in on Nyheim Hines early. That's proved to be a terrible pick. He's been awful. And I kind of wish, because now I'm probably going to be outpriced for Corey Davis just because, at $40, I think someone might go over that, being that it's getting pretty late in the season.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. And you know what? He's been good, and he's going to be back possibly by next week. We got to talk about the blockbuster.
Oh yeah,
big time trade this week that has very, very wide rippling consequences. The All-Stars, in another deal with AE, they have a red phone in each other's offices. They call each other. This is their second trade so far this year. Interesting that the newbie is a wheeler and dealer, and I love it. He receives Tyler Lockett and Derrick Henry in exchange for Michael Gallup and CMC. Now, Christian McCaffrey is a running back 1 and a wide receiver 1, right? He's a cheat code in fantasy football, and that's exactly what Tyler paid. That's exactly what Tyler paid.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with this trade. The only problem I have is McCaffrey is not healthy.
Right.
It feels a little bit like an overpay. If you were to get a healthy CMC, this would be the price for him. But for an injured CMC, Tyman's got to be a little, he's bringing his rosary beads out that McCaffrey actually comes back and looks like himself week 6. But with high ankle sprains, you had Saquon last year. We saw what happened there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to call it this, but it may be a little bit of like a vanity roster a little bit, which I think a lot of people go for, where it looks sexy week in and week out when you have McCaffrey there. It's the same thing a few years ago. I think I did the same thing with DeAndre Hopkins when he had that terrible year with Osweiler. And it looks sexy week in and week out. It's like, he's my number 2. That's awesome. I have Christian McCaffrey, but is he going to be Christian McCaffrey of last year? If he is, it could be a league winner. But if not, it looks sexy on Sundays, but might not pay off. So I don't know. I think it's a good trade all in all, but and it does make sense for Tyman taking that chance. But at the same time, I think AE, the newcomer, is getting a good player in Henry and a solid player in Lockett. Lockett's kind of rubs me
he's
as
like wide receiver
Baldwin.
5 this year. He's been really good. And last year he was in the same spot till he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And Russell's cooking. I think Lockett is, if he finishes outside wide receiver 12, I think it's going to be a surprise. And Henry is as steady as they come, right? The only knock on Henry is he just doesn't catch passes.
Right.
One other point that I wanted to make is, AE dropping T.Y. Hilton here, I think maybe a little showing how green he is in a 14-team league.
Mm-hmm.
To me, keeping Tom Brady on your roster when you have Russell Wilson, you need Tom Brady 1 week this year, and it's week 6.
Yeah.
He plays Green Bay week 6, so okay, fine. Brady's kind of droppable. And T.Y. Hilton in a 14-team league has a pulse on a decent offense. He's going to have suitors. I guarantee Hilton's going to go for $20 on Fab. I
Mhm.
probably would have dropped Brady. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I think Ty, just looking at him, obviously he hasn't had a great season, but and obviously you can't tell a lot from this. But looking at his projected numbers, what they think is he's probably going to revert back to the mean. Like he's going to go back to what he usually has been doing. He's a good wide receiver. So I think it's probably a little too soon to give up on him because he could be a stud down the stretch, and he's one of those guys where it's like, wow, this guy's actually getting 16 a week, and I dropped him way too early. So I agree. As someone who's down at the bottom feeders, I'm looking at that saying he might have gifted me something that could get me a win or two.
Right. If you're struggling to find production and someone drops T.Y. Hilton, your hand is up. You're in the bidding because he plays a lot of snaps and he's shown through his career he has the ability to to have blow up games. So
Yep.
I question it a little bit. I think he got an itchy trigger finger because he's been bad, but I think he may have jumped the gun on that one.
Yep.
That's all the real interesting transactions I noticed. I think it's time we jump to some matchups and give our picks.
Weekly picks.
All right, so starting at the top on my board, I have my own matchup. I think that's how it's structured for everybody. We'll
Yep.
talk fantasy sports legend 4-0, league leader in points against the Fat Cat, who has been no slouch, and his team is really starting to round into form. Had a solid Thursday night performance, 8 points from Chicago D, 15 from a very injured Mike Evans, which has to feel like a win for him because Evans was
Yep.
barely on the field. Um, Listen, I think right now I'm rolling. FSL's rolling. I have a pretty well-rounded team. Mike Davis has been a phenomenal, best $41 I ever spent in my life.
Hmm.
See no reason to think he's not going to score 20 this week. I think this matchup comes down to matchups. Dak versus the Giants is one of those matchups for a quarterback that is so good it's bad.
Right.
If the Giants get boat raced, it's the Zeke show, it's the Pollard show. Dak gets shut down. And granted, Dallas hasn't shown that they can take the lead and hold it yet this year.
Hmm.
But to me, this looks like a matchup at home and a must-win that they have to get it done. You look up and down my roster, and you could probably say the same thing about Kyler at the Jets, where it's such a good matchup, but is it really a good matchup because it's so bad or they're so
Right.
bad? Um,
Right. It's
I, you know,
if he doesn't get a touchdown, if they have a fluky rushing touchdown or something, it's like you need to get those early because it's probably going to be a blowout. And I think Dak, I mean, his numbers are obviously inflated because they've been getting blown out and have been having these great comebacks. Where even Atlanta, where they won that game, they had an unbelievable comeback. Dak has 15 points going into the third quarter and ends up getting
right.
40. So I think his numbers are a little bit inflated where I'd like to see if the game is close or if they're winning the game, how his numbers actually do, and if that 31 projected is actually legitimate for who Dak is as a
Right.
player.
No, I agree. I feel like 80% of Dak's points this year have come in the second half. So that
Mm-hmm.
people are talking about these yardage records. He's on pace for 6,700 yards. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. It's been
Yeah.
like game script perfect throughout the entire season.
Right.
To me, this matchup comes down to Jonathan Taylor at Cleveland. That's an interesting game. Indy's defense has been really good. Cleveland is just they've gotten back to running the rock. I think if Zach wants to take me down, it's going to need he's going to need 25 points from Jonathan Taylor. He's got Ertz at Pittsburgh. He's got Gordon at New England, Singletary at Tennessee, even Landry against Indy. The matchups aren't great, and mine are pretty good. And I think I have a better team than him right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think Zach's going to need some help from Taylor and Dak to get it done this week.
Agreed. I think it's a. I mean, I would take you in this matchup. I think I like your matchups a little more than him. I think he has some boom or bust options. I mean, it could very well come down to. I mean, it is going to, but it's going to come down to that Tuesday night game against Tennessee. Who's going to have more,
Yep.
Diggs or Singletary?
I'll take
I
that
don't
bet
know.
all day.
Yeah, take Diggs all day. So, going to be an interesting matchup. Who you got? Who you got next?
All right, so we're moving on to the Buffaloes versus the Stars. The 3-1 Buffaloes against the 3-1 Stars. A pretty big matchup, important matchup. Tyler weakened this week by taking on the injured Christian McCaffrey. So he loses Derrick Henry. He loses Tyler Lockett.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in my mind, clearly the dog this week. The fact that Josh Allen is projected at 22 and his streamer Jimmy Garoppolo is projected at 23 is fairly laughable to me by Yahoo.
Right.
I make Kipper a sizable favorite in this.
Yep.
The interesting thing here, John Brown, we saw a clip of practice this week. He came up limp. I think he's on the wrong side of questionable. Kipper does have Beasley going to that Tuesday night game. Kipper has Jeff Wilson in there right now, but I think there's a pretty good chance Mostert plays at home against Miami. There's also a pretty good chance Deontay Johnson plays too. So the matchup we're looking at here doesn't tell the whole story. I put Kipper as a sizable favorite. Ty Man's going to be relying on AJ Brown coming back from injury. Devontae Parker at San Fran, bad matchup. Miles Sanders at Pittsburgh, horrible matchup.
Right.
James Robinson has a good one at Houston. What do you think about Kipper's team? I think Kipper's flown under the radar a bit this year.
I agree. I think he has a great team. I think obviously Jeff Wilson, if Mostert is back, obviously that deals a pretty big hit to him. But Zeke has been great. Again, that might be what we're kind of seeing with the uptick in the Dallas offense, just because they've been down. But John Brown, I do think if John Brown doesn't play, I don't think Cole Beasley and John Brown line up for whatever reason. I think John Brown's been much better than Beasley, and maybe Beasley will kind of take his place, but I just think Brown's better, so I think that will take a little bit of a hit if he doesn't play. But no, I think it's a solid team. I think he puts a good baseline number out there. I think he's tough to beat because his floor is pretty low at this point.
Right. Zeke, Kelsey, Allen is a pretty dangerous trio. I think the one question I have here is Tyler's going with Jimmy G over Matt Ryan. Jimmy G at home versus Miami, really good matchup. Probably still a bit hobbled from the ankle. Matt Ryan looks like Julio's not going to play. And if Julio doesn't play, I think I probably agree with this.
Yep.
But Matt Ryan started off the year gangbusters, and in the last 2 weeks he's been trash. So I think Tyler's kind of looking at the tea leaves here and making a switch at quarterback, which I don't disagree with. But we'll see how that situation evolves at quarterback.
Yeah, I like Jimmy G. I think you have Debo back. If you have Mostert back out of the backfield, Kittle's healthy. Kittle, yeah, they're pretty much all the way back. Correct? That offense.
They're close. Mostert's still
Yeah,
very
he might be
questionable.
banged up.
Yeah, but they're getting close to back to full health on offense anyway.
Right. So Jimmy G and Mostert are probably the two most banged up on that offense. No, I like Jimmy G. I think, I don't know, Matty Ice. I mean, if Julio doesn't play, that's an easy one. But no, I don't hate the Jimmy G play. I like that, especially against Miami. Me slinging it around. So even though Miami does have a pretty good secondary, but I don't know. I think Jimmy G's the good play over Matty Ice this week.
Okay, let's move on. Burnt Toast, 1-3. Coming out of the gate slow, but a pretty solid team. I ranked him a contender in my article. I think he does have a good team. Against Big Daddy AE, who possibly just bought himself a win this week because his lineup is now featuring Tyler Lockett and Derrick Henry, both in probably plus matchups. Andy is the favorite by about 10 points, according to Yahoo. I agree with that. I think the Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett stack on Sunday night against Minnesota is fucking terrifying. I would hate to play against that.
Yep.
Henry versus Buffalo. Buffalo D hasn't been as good as they were last year.
Yeah.
So I'd call that probably an average matchup. Josh Kelly at New Orleans, we'll see. But, you look on the other side of the ledger, what do you think Dwayne Haskins going down means for Terry McLaurin? Do you think Kyle Allen maintains it, or are there reasons to be concerned as a McLaurin owner?
I think there's reasons to be concerned. I mean, we haven't really seen him with anyone besides Haskins. This is really going to tell us if McLaurin's I don't want to say elite, but a good receiver. Is it just because Haskins targets him a ton and they just have a good rapport? That could be, but if Kyle Allen comes in, I think it's a make it or break it. If he does well this week, then he's going to be good going forward. But I think it's definitely a concern. you just never know if he comes in and Kyle Allen's just looking for other players, you know. But then again, I don't think there's much of a drop off. If McLaurin is a good receiver, Kyle Allen and Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen might be better than Dwayne Haskins. So it could be an uptick as well. So it can go either way, but I think I'm going to fare on the side of uptick. I've watched him a little bit. I think he's a good receiver. I don't think Dwayne Haskins is making anybody a better receiver based on the type of quarterback he is. I don't think he's horrible. I actually don't think he should have been benched, but I don't think he makes anyone better like a way Brady does. Or, I mean, that's ridiculous to even compare, but that's kind of why the point is. I don't think he makes anyone better. So I think McLaurin will be fine.
Yeah, and you know, Burnt Toast made an interesting move this week. He put Marquise Brown on the bench, which you know he's clearly deserved. But you know, Marquise Brown was a preseason darling for a lot of people, and he's throwing Tyler
Yeah.
Boyd in there against Baltimore. I agree with that call. I think Brown needs to go on the bench until further notice. What I will say is James Conner at home against Philly being projected 15 points is light. I
Yeah.
think this is a 25-point smash spot for him. I think Pittsburgh is. I think they're about to run into a buzzsaw. Pittsburgh off rest against a destroyed offensive line. I think James Conner scores under 25, and you feel lucky this week. I think he's going to score twice. I think AE has reasons to be concerned here. The one interesting thing is the quarterback matchup. Justin Herbert, since Aaron Rodgers is on bye against Russell Wilson, gives AE a huge advantage there. But
Yeah.
Herbert, you know, past 3 weeks as starter, 24, 22, 29. This guy slings it, and you know he's projected 15 points. I do not agree with that. This is going to be a close matchup because you know Burnt Toast needs to right the ship, and AE tried to buy himself a win here to you know move into the right track, and it's going to be tough against Burnt Toast. This is a toss up to me.
Right. If I'm looking at matchups, I'm looking at obviously that LAC New Orleans game is going to be huge because if Herbert goes off and Josh Kelly, you know, that's you're kind of comparing the two. So if there's some passing touchdowns and Kelly doesn't get one, that's big. But if Herbert can get close to Russell, if Russell can have 32 and Herbert can have 26 or something like that, fall within close to him, then I think Toast has a real chance. But
Yeah.
if Russell goes off and gets 40 and Herbert kind of has a little bit of a reverting back, and he has, I guess, reverting back, he doesn't have anything to go back to. He kind of started out hot, but if he gets around that projection and Russell beats him by 20, that's going to be a runaway for Big Daddy AE, I think, in the long run.
Okay, let's move on. Hitters at the Cool Cats, 2-2 versus 4-0. Hitters have had a tough schedule. You know, they're one of the league leaders in points. Um, they've run into a couple buzzsaws so far this year, and you know a decent amount of this game has already been played. Ronald Jones and A Rob started for the Cool Cats, who both had plus games.
Yep.
David Montgomery with a plus game. Gronk not too bad with 8 points at tight end. You know, neither of these teams lost or won the week with those performances, and we have a long way to go. Um, you know, I look at Kamara at home versus the Chargers on Monday night. That just feels like a smash spot. You know, Ridley's an interesting one. He, you know, maybe if it weren't for that goose egg on Monday night last week, I think I would classify him as my quarter pole MVP because he's been, you know,
Yeah.
he was a fourth round pick for people, and he has been absolutely smashing.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Nigro is still rolling with Derek Carr. And listen, Derek Carr the last 3 weeks, 27, 22, 26. It doesn't look pretty in your lineup, but this guy's been getting it done even without any freaking healthy wide receivers.
Yep.
I look at the Cool Cats, you know, Hopkins against Vegas, or sorry, Hopkins against the Jets. Hopefully he's healthy, but that could be a smash. Mahomes at home against the Raiders, that could be a smash. This is going to be another heavyweight battle. These are two of the best teams in the league.
Right.
And I see, you know, 150 plus winning this game. I don't think you're going to win this thing with 125. I think both these teams could the matchups are there, and it's going to be who can score the most touchdowns.
Right. Yeah, I think when you look at Mahomes, or not Mahomes, Hopkins, it's kind of the same thing. Is it could be so bad that it's or so good that it's bad. Where if he doesn't get his reps early and maybe score a touchdown within the first 2 quarters, it could be just kind of a runaway where they're running the ball the whole time. But then again, I don't think that team is built to really. I think they give Kyler the ball a decent amount anyway. So I think Hopkins is going to have a good game. He's back. He's fully healthy now. Yeah, Robbie Anderson against Atlanta. That should be a pretty close game. Mark Andrews has been a stud. I mean, two powerhouses. I think this could be game of the week for sure. This is going to
Yeah.
be a good one down to the finish. And
I
yeah,
think the one big thing here is Joe Mixon coming off a 42-point game and the MVP of Week 4 at Baltimore.
right.
That's the question mark because Joe Mixon has been known to be a disappearing act, and I think if he scores more than 15 points, frankly, I think I'd be a little surprised unless he's
Yeah,
catching 7 balls. But I think Pender needs to be a little worried about that because his RB1 may be an RB2 this week. So good matchup, but that key matchup of Mixon at Baltimore, that's going to be the decider to me.
right. And I think the decider too, a big one was Jones versus Montgomery. I think that was kind of the fact. I mean, they both had great games, but Montgomery beating out Jones when Jones had early he was doing great. I think that's kind of a telltale sign. I'd be happy if I was the hitters with Montgomery beating out Ronald Jones there. Um, so yeah, I think it's going to be a good matchup down to the wire. But I don't know. Andrews versus Gronk. That's an interesting one. Andrews could really outscore. I mean, Gronk is kind of a little bit of a weak spot. But I don't know. A top four for hitters is pretty good.
Okay, let's move on to the Jibby Johns against Toon Squad. The Jibby Johns owner making some controversial comments in the media last night.
Well,
Listen, it's not been pretty. Um, would you like to make a comment, make a
let me
statement?
say that the only time I think I can legit get a win is if someone on the other team gets a red card, which I have this week. Scotty
You have a red
Miller,
card.
red card. I'm playing
Red
one
card.
man down. He got zip. So I'm thinking if there's one chance that right now I'm projected live projection, I'm live projected to win.
Wow. First time
Um,
all season,
First
possibly.
time all season, even though I started out as 8-point dogs, but projected to win. I think if I can start one man down, that's kind of my only shot. So, not that bad. I do have Michael Thomas back. I have the Drew Brees, Michael Thomas stack. If they can just become a shell of themselves, what they were last year, maybe they can do pretty well this week. I'm not sure. I need to follow up on Thomas, make sure that he's
Yeah,
still
it's tough.
kind of
It's
struggling
tough
there
having a guy on the wrong side of questionable on Monday Night Football. The good news is you have Gabe Davis on
on
Tuesday
Tuesday.
Night Football, so that's a nice safety net there. And listen, if there's any week the Johns are going to get on the board, it's this week
It's this week.
because
I need this one.
Toon Squad is missing Devontae Adams and Kenny Galladay to buy. His team looks absolutely fucking gross. There's no one on this side to be scared of beyond Lamar Jackson. The rest of this team is disgusting. He's already taken a goose egg. I think Darius Slayton's a good spot start. The question is, Breeze has been okay. Is there any decision to move off of him?
I mean, that's why, I don't think you covered it on the transaction tracker, but Gardner Minshew was just a pickup for the Johns. So he may end up getting the start. I mean, he's been pretty good. He's going against Houston this week, which, Houston's been, they've been just terrible. And they're
Yeah,
kind of under new
horrible.
coaching there and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I do like the stack, but there is a heavy concern from the Johns camp. I can say that directly that Minshew may get the start this week.
You need a plan at Zach Moss at running back too. He's still no one knows if he's going to be active this week. He's been limited practicing, but being that's the last game of the week, what's your plan there?
Probably just looking free agents. I mean, that's all I can do. I'm thin at running back, but just pick up someone on free agents that maybe can get a few catches. Even someone like even go with a fullback position, like someone who can maybe get a fluky touchdown. That's almost what I'm looking for at this point. Find someone who can maybe get in the end zone when they have 1 to 2 touchdowns a year, and I hit on this week and can get the W. That would be the only thought. But yeah, I'll be hitting the free agent wire hard this before tomorrow for sure.
Okay, this is your time. You got his two best players beyond Jackson are on bye, so this is your week to get on the scoreboard.
I got a guy
Let's
hurt, got a guy on bye, and I got a red card. This is the week for the
This is
Johns.
the week. Things are coming together. All right,
Yep.
moving on. Lucianator 2-2, taking on the 0-4 Teflon Don. Jimmy Graham with a fantastic one-handed catch on Thursday Night Football puts Luch out to an early advantage. I look at the Don's team. CeeDee Lamb and Deebo Samuel, that was his plan, and it started coming together probably sooner than he even thought it would.
Yep.
And Dawson Schultz at tight end, not too shabby either. Um, I do think the Don is putting something together here. I know he's a bit of a dog against Luchinator, who's been, okay. It's not been a very pretty 2-2, and Deshaun Watson being projected at 28 points when his high score of the year is 20 makes me question who's putting the projections out, because I think that's outrageous.
Yep.
Um, Luch off a big win, riding Beckham and Cook. The Beckham thing for me, I'm not ready to say he's back. It was 2 scores on gadget plays. Nice to see if you're a Beckham owner, but I don't think you can project that for the rest of the season. What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I've had Beckham in the past. Has a big game and then he'll go away for a little while and then have another big game where people get jacked about him and then he'll go away. I'm not. Hopefully he does. Hopefully he does. Start playing better. But I don't think he's someone that you can rely on like some of the better receivers, some of the no, the perennial number ones. He's not there yet, but if he is down the stretch, I think he could. He could be a stud for Luch.
Yeah, I think Luch is all in on the Texans and the Vikings. And listen, Justin Jefferson, I'm not sure if he drafted him. I don't think he did. If he did, that could be a fantastic keeper because he's filling in the Diggs role pretty well. And I will say, Luch's team is unsexy, but it's deep. Like Gurley is your flex, Cook, David Johnson. These are all guys who get volume. They get goal line touches.
Yep.
Luch is not an easy out this year. He's gonna be right in there. I think I called him a pretender, but because I don't see the upside on this team, but in any given week, he's going to be a tough out. And Teflon, the names all look good. Like they're sexy. CeeDee Lamb, Debo, Mark Ingram. Like they look great, but the production just hasn't been there.
Yeah, it's funny
I
going in. He's the other 0-4 team in 13th, just above me, and I was ready to go in and be like, man, I have a better team than this guy. And looking at his team, it's like you said, it is sexy. You look at it and you're like, how is this guy 0-4?
Yeah.
But it should, maybe if Debo comes back and is himself of last year, that could be big. But other than that, it's I guess his guys just haven't had the output.
Yeah, and the
Edelman looked
obviously
so bad the
losing
other night.
Saquon hurts, but I think something that's going underreported is the fact that Josh Jacobs' last 3 weeks is 13-10-10.
Hmm.
And they've been in bad game script in I guess not in the New Orleans game, but in the last two against New England and Buffalo, they've been behind the whole game. They're going to be behind against KC, and Jacobs is not the guy when there's bad game script that's going to win you a week.
Right.
And so that's his best player, and he's got a very negative game script matchup. He's gonna need something from one of these guys to pick up Jacobs, because I don't see Jacobs scoring more than 18 points this week
Right.
unless he's fucking stumbles in for 2 touchdowns. Let's move on
Yeah,
to the
not
last
against
one.
Casey.
Last one is Doves sitting at 1-3. Really tough week for the Doves. Lost Austin Eckler. Le'Veon Bell's coming back, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But Julio Jones also looking like he's going to miss the next couple weeks against a very good Tony Horton team. Tony Horton has given the reins over to Teddy Bridgewater with Cam missing games, and Teddy's been good.
Yep.
Kareem Hunt also is now
The number
firmly in the
one
RB1 conversation. Yeah,
for sure.
um, for sure. And I just look at this Dubs team and I see Roethlisberger, Woods, Schuster, Burkhead, Lindsey, Gesicki, Judy. The matchups aren't good. I see a lot of Denver. I see at San Fran. Um, I guess Roethlisberger and Smith Schuster against Philly. Maybe I think there's gonna be more running in that game than passing. Um, I'm not liking this one for the Doves. I think you look at Bridgewater's matchup at Atlanta, Metcalf versus Minnie, Hill versus Vegas, Hunt versus Indy. It's not great. Um, Waller at Kansas City. The game script's going to work for him. And this is all with Aaron Jones, Cam Newton out, his two of his best players.
Yeah, I
Do you
mean,
think
I
Doves can
look at
get through this
Doves.
stretch without Eckler and Jones? I mean, that's a tough ask.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think looking at Doves, I've looked at my team a lot and thought I don't see many teams worse. Looking at Doves without Jones and Eckler, it's close, and so he
Yeah,
needs
it is.
he needs to get those guys back.
But,
Sorry, Rhodes.
also
Sorry.
Lev Bell coming back. So
Yeah, I
or
mean, he
actually not.
could be. I mean, if he gets his guys back. Oh yeah, he doesn't have. So yeah, just Jones, Eckler. Um, Yeah, if Lev Bell is anything. So I mean, I think his team was pretty good to start, and if he does get if he gets Eckler and Jones back, that's a completely different story. But looking at this, he needs to get them back quick because it could be a tough few weeks for the Doves.
All right, let's get to our lead pipe lock.
The lead pipe locks of the week.
This is where we pick a fantasy matchup that we think has no chance of being upset. So we are probably going to get every one of these wrong. JB, start with you. Which matchup to you do you think this is a locked and loaded W?
I might be a little going with recency bias, but I'm going with Horton over the Doves. I think looking at that, I think you're completely right. You have Hunt, who started the year where it was, he's a number 2, he's going to be a stud. Now he's a locked-in number 1. Bridgewater's looking good, and then you have the injuries and everything going on with the Doves. If Julio doesn't play, I think it's maybe I stole your pick, but I think I'm going with Horton to go 3-2, and I don't know with that team. I think he's well in the hunt for sure.
So I think that's probably the most obvious matchup of the week. The Doves losing 2 of his key starters against a good Horton team. My lock of the week is that Jimmy Johns will get their first win against Toon Squad and his beleaguered team with Poopy Kenyon Drake and Lamar Jackson in a matchup that's so good it's bad and already throwing a red card in JB's face. The Johns get on the board. They get their first win. Let's go, baby.
I like it. I'm on board. I was going to go with that. I was going to say if you go with, I think Horton's probably the easy one. I think if I was going to go with another one, I was going to go with a little brotherly love and go FSL against the Fat Cat. I think I like Fat Cat's team, but I think FSL right now is just a wagon. So I think I think FSL goes to 5-0. Hopefully it's not the KOD kiss of death, but I think you roll over him. I think Murray is one of those quarterbacks that gets a ton of points. Allen's been your boy forever, and he just him and
Underrated.
Herbert look like he looks like they're connecting. And then Chark, you almost trade him to me for who'd you almost trade him to me for? For Godwin, which I think I would have done that. Hilaire, Davis has been a stud, Kittle, and then Diggs as your flex. Diggs is he's a number 1, maybe a low, like a high end number 2, but he could almost be a number 1 receiver.
He's wide receiver 7 on the season in points so far. With the renaissance of the Bills offense, he's the beneficiary, and he's Josh Allen's guy. And knock on wood for health, but I don't see any sign of this slowing down for Diggs and Allen right now.
No, I like the team. So I would say if I had to go different from the lowly Doves and I had to move on, I would probably give it to FSL to roll over the Fat Cat.
All right. Well, you boys, let's have a great week 5. Let's keep people healthy. Let's have some fun. Let's drink some beers. Let's win some money. Commissioner.
Let's do it.